On the 28th of February, the United States and Israel launched a joint military operation against Iran. American and Israeli warplanes struck more than 30 targets inside Iran, including the residence of Supreme Leader Khamenei, the presidential palace, and the Ministry of Intelligence and National Security. Reuters reported that the U.S. Department of Defense designated the operation Epic Fury, with the first wave targeting Iran's senior leadership. The campaign was expected to last several days. Reuters also reported that Iranian army commander Hatami was killed in the strikes. Khamenei himself was not in Tehran and was believed to have been evacuated to a secure location in advance. President Pezeshkian was reported unharmed. President Trump addressed the nation in a video posted to social media in the early hours of the 28th of February, announcing the launch of major military operations in Iran. He stated that the United States aimed to eliminate the imminent threat posed by the Iranian regime, reaffirming that America would never allow Iran to acquire nuclear weapons. Israeli Defense Minister Katz stated that Israel had launched a preemptive strike against Iran to eliminate the threat it poses to Israel. Israeli officials indicated that Phase 1 of the operation would consist of 4 days of intensive, coordinated strikes. The two sides had spent months coordinating the operation, with the timing locked in weeks in advance. The Associated Press reported strikes across Iran, with thick smoke rising over the capital, Tehran. The attack came during the Muslim holy month of Ramadan. With the Jewish holiday of Purim falling the following Monday, the Iranian government responded with defiant rhetoric. Ibrahim Azizi, chair of Iran's National Security Council, declared, "We have warned you. You are now walking down a road with no certain end." Iran's foreign ministry issued a forceful statement, vowing that Iran will not hesitate to respond and that the time has come to defend the homeland against its enemies. Simultaneously, Iran launched its first wave of drone and missile strikes against Israel. Neighboring Gulf states quickly reported incoming Iranian missiles. In Abu Dhabi, explosions were heard and windows rattled throughout the UAE capital. Qatar announced it had intercepted 3 waves of Iranian missiles. Jordan reported shooting down 2 incoming missiles. Bahrain said the U.S. Fifth Fleet service hub on the island was struck. Explosions were reported near Iran's Karg Island, through which approximately 90% of Iran's crude oil exports. Past Global Airlines suspended all flights over the Middle East, either rerouting or halting service entirely. Iran announced that civilian casualties had resulted from the joint US-Israeli strikes, including a girls' school in a southern city struck by a missile, killing more than 40 people. An Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps base was located nearby. Before the military operation erupted, U.S.-Iran diplomatic talks had appeared to be making genuine progress. Oman's Foreign Minister Badr, acting as intermediary, announced on the 17th of February that negotiations had achieved significant breakthroughs. Iran had agreed to permanently forgo enriched uranium, capable of producing nuclear weapons, with existing stockpiles to be diluted to their lowest possible level and converted into irreversible fuel. Iran also agreed to grant International Atomic Energy Agency inspectors full access to its nuclear facilities to verify compliance. Badr's framing broadly aligned with the 2015 Iran nuclear deal negotiated under the Obama administration, essentially a streamlined version of that agreement. But Trump grew impatient. In the post on the 27th of February, he wrote, "I hope we don't have to use force, but sometimes we have no choice." At that point, 2 U.S. carrier strike groups were already positioned in the Middle East, awaiting his order, an order that has now arrived. To put this in context, in 2018, Trump unilaterally withdrew from the Iran nuclear deal, citing support for Israel, and reimposed severe sanctions on Iran. Iran responded by resuming uranium enrichment. In June 2024, the U.S. launched its first major military strike on Iran since 2020. Sending B-2 stealth bombers on a mission codenamed Midnight Hammer, dropping GBU-57 massive ordnance penetrators on 3 underground nuclear facilities. The current operation marks an even more direct escalation, striking Iran's core political and military leadership. In his early morning video address on the 28th of February, Trump spoke directly to Iranians. "Tonight, your moment of freedom has arrived. Bombs will fall everywhere. When we have completed our mission and taken over your government, it will belong to you. This may be the only chance your generation will ever get. For years, you have been asking America for help, and you never received it. No president has ever been willing to do what I am willing to do tonight. Now you have a president who is ready to give you everything you want. Let us see how you respond." The speech carried unmistakable messianic overtones. This rhetoric did not emerge from nowhere. From late last year through January, Iran was swept by mass protests. Citizens took to the streets against the police and the Revolutionary Guards. In some cities, residents even seized local police stations. On the 2nd of January, Trump posted abruptly that if the Iranian authorities shoot and violently kill peaceful protesters, America will come to rescue them, adding that bullets are loaded and ready to go. The statement energized protesters, swelling their numbers. The U.S. deployed at least one additional carrier strike group and bolstered missile defense systems across the region. On the 8th of January, Trump told reporters at the White House that if Iranian authorities bore direct responsibility for protester deaths, they will pay a very heavy price, and that help is on the way. On the 13th of January, he posted again, urging Iranians, "Patriots of Iran, keep protesting. Take over your institutions." White House Press Secretary Leavitt said Trump was closely monitoring the situation and that all options are on the table. Then, abruptly, the signal reversed. Pakistani media reported that Iran's ambassador to Pakistan received a message indicating that Trump, in the early hours of the 14th of January, had privately communicated to Iran that he would not launch an attack and did not want war. On the 16th of January, Trump announced he was standing down, saying the cancellation came after Iran suspended the execution of 800 protesters. Subsequent media reports suggested Iranian authorities had killed some 35,000 people during and after the protest crackdown, a figure Trump addressed with complete silence. Now he has returned in the role of savior. Videos circulating on social media showed some Iranians celebrating the American strikes. One clip showed Khamenei's residence engulfed in flames, with a woman in Tehran visibly overcome with emotion. The daytime strike by us and Israeli warplanes proved something once more. The air defense systems Iran purchased from China performed like scrap metal under American attack. U.S. aircraft moved through Iranian airspace as if it were undefended. Iran's Chinese-supplied arsenal, as currently known, includes the JY-26 long-range anti-stealth metric wave early warning radar, the JY-10 long-range metric wave radar, the JY-14-3 coordinate surveillance radar, the HQ-7 low-altitude surface-to-air missile system, and the Shenong Shield low-altitude laser defense system against drones. Iran's situation closely mirrors that of Venezuela. The conclusion is hard to avoid. Chinese weapons are not the answer for autocratic states seeking to replace Russian-made systems, because they are equally ineffective. The New York Times ran an editorial noting that Trump had promised voters during the 2024 campaign that he would end wars, not start them, yet in the past year he has ordered military strikes against 7 countries, his appetite for intervention growing steadily. The editorial criticized him for releasing a vague late-night video at 2:30 a.m. claiming Iran posed an imminent threat and calling for the overthrow of its government, framing the editors found dubious and the manner of delivery unacceptable. The Times acknowledged that destroying Iran's nuclear program is a legitimate goal, but noted the contradiction. Iran claimed the program had already been destroyed in last June's strikes, while US intelligence and the current operation both contradict that claim. This inconsistency, the editorial argued, reveals how little Trump values honesty when committing American forces to combat. The editorial also acknowledged that the Iranian regime deserves no sympathy. For 47 years, it has brought suffering to its own people, its neighbors, and the world, massacring protesters, imprisoning dissidents, oppressing women and religious minorities, enriching its leadership, financing terrorism, and fueling violence across the Middle East and as far as Argentina. But the editorial insisted that Trump's recklessness, vague objectives, failure to build domestic or international support, disregard for the laws of war, and failure to assess the risks to American forces make his approach indefensible. Chatham House argued that for Iran, this is not a short 12-day war, but a round of limited escalation that can be paused or reset. This new phase concerns the survival of the Iranian regime. And this conflict will clearly not end quickly. The think tank also warned that the strikes continue a troubling American pattern of launching attacks when negotiations stall, and that other nations will become less willing to negotiate with Washington if military escalation is always on the table. Monocle described a Trump who appeared in a baseball cap printed with USA, standing behind a lectern of unknown location, and spent 8 minutes vaguely announcing an operation of enormous risk. His case for an imminent threat was thin. This, the site suggested, looks far more like a massive political gamble, an attempt to force a breakthrough after diplomacy stalled. The Guardian argued that Trump's attack without congressional authorization is an unconstitutional act of aggression, and that striking Iran in the absence of any credible imminent threat violates the United Nations Charter. Facing the prospect of his party losing the November midterms, Trump chose to make the biggest bet of his presidency, hoping a spectacular victory in Iran would win back voters. Polls show only 1 in 4 Americans supports military intervention in the Middle East. The Guardian warned that this unilateralism is dismantling the international order built after World War II. The Atlantic Council said Trump is betting he can inflict enough damage on Iran's core security and political institutions to cause the regime to collapse. A colossal gamble with questionable legal underpinning. It identified 3 interlinked questions. First, whether Iran successfully inflicts losses on the United States. A regime facing an existential threat will likely use every weapon at its disposal, and how much damage it causes may determine its fate. Second, whether Trump will continue the operation if the U.S. suffers significant casualties or global energy prices spike. And third, whether Trump's definition of success, the Iranian people rising up to topple their government, is remotely achievable without ground troops or an armed opposition, requiring mass defections within Iran's security services for which no plan appears to exist. The Council warned that waging large-scale war against a nation of 93 million people, with 2,500 years of history, formidable retaliatory capacity, and no clear organized opposition carries extreme risk. Reuters argued the military action's costs far outweigh its benefits. Iran has already launched missiles at Israel and at its allies Bahrain, Qatar, and the UAE, countries whose economic transformation plans depend on attracting foreign investment and developing tourism. If missile strikes force the closure of airspace over Abu Dhabi and Dubai, both agendas will suffer severe setbacks. If the conflict disrupts oil supply, a disruption to Arab Gulf tanker traffic could reduce global oil output by 3 million barrels. For Dalton Y, within weeks, enough to drive crude prices well above the current $72 per barrel and send further shockwaves through the global economy. Bloomberg noted that Trump never explained his rationale or objectives to Congress or the public. The answer only became clear once epic fury began. And the answer is apparently everything. Trump cited at least 6 justifications for going to war, with regime change the most ambitious. Bloomberg's analysis: without regime change, Iran's programs may be weakened, disrupted, or delayed, but not stopped. If Trump succeeds in toppling the regime, all criticism will be forgotten and his victory will be beyond dispute. But the risks are very real. A strike of this scale and unlimited ambition will push Tehran to fight back with everything it has, treating this as a war for survival. The only question is how much damage that fight back will inflict on the United States and its allies, and for how long, given Trump's conduct. Some legislators have moved to constrain him. In the House, California Democrat Ro Khanna and Kentucky Republican Thomas Massie introduced a resolution to block Trump from waging war without congressional authorization, stating explicitly that Congress has not authorized an attack on Iran and demanding U.S. forces withdraw within 60 days. Virginia Democratic Senator Tim Kaine and Kentucky Republican Senator Rand Paul introduced a similar resolution in the Senate. The New York Times editorial argued that the outbreak of hostilities should not stop lawmakers from passing these measures. It expressed hope, above all, that the soldiers carrying out the mission return safely, and that the Iranian people, who have long suffered under their regime's brutality, receive genuine support. What the editorial found deeply regrettable is that Trump has never treated war as the grave and serious matter it is. Western mainstream media commentary has converged on two central criticisms of Trump's action. The first is that his justification for going to war and the account he has given the American people are woefully inadequate in a democracy. A president who commits the nation to war owes citizens a full and honest explanation, not a vague video posted at 2:30 in the morning on his personal platform. The second is that the risks this attack poses to the United States, whatever Trump may have weighed privately, remain entirely unclear. Ababov is a survey of how Western mainstream media has assessed Trump's action. What do you think? Personally, I have to admit that when I heard Khamenei was dead, I felt a certain satisfaction, and I am not entirely sure why.